Did you know that there are over 2,000 billionaires in the world? What would it take for you to be one of these people? These are 5 strategies that were assumed to have been implemented by these folks. Let's dive in and take a look. Looking at this article here written by R.L. Adams, is from Entrepreneur. He's stating the facts here. We boast roughly 16 million of them. Clearly, it's hard to amass such large fortune. Yes, having $1 billion is a very large amount of fortunes. I can't imagine being able to spend that in a lifetime. But let's dive into this further to understand exactly the lifestyle these people live and how they actually amass this amount of wealth. So he is saying when a person can amass such an unfathomable, see, tongue twisters, but I think I got it right this time, amount of wealth, it piques the interest of our global population, most of them steeped in poverty rather than wealth. But does that mean we should be envious or enraged at the people at the proverbial top? The truth. No, we should not be pissed off. Before I go in further into this, we should not be pissed off at them. Some of them were inherited. And even those people, they were born in with a silver spoon inside of their mouth. We should not be pissed off at them because their parents were intelligent enough to do the thing that they're supposed to do, not have your children start from zero. You're supposed to continue, pass on the legacy so that they continue the work that you have done. It's the same way that God has implemented the world for it to work, right? We as parents, we give birth to children. And in return, our children give birth to their children, and it keeps going on. And that's how our legacies keep on living forward. And we pass along our assets. Don't just let the courts get it. Don't just give it away. Don't lose it all. You pass it on. Don't just sell it. Instead, have your children continue living out the legacy that you have set and implemented towards your assets. That is my thoughts, my own opinion. But let's continue diving into this article. All right, I'm going to skip a lot of this. I have immersed and inserted myself into a circle of individuals to specifically answer these questions. I've surrounded myself with people living at the highest level because I am curious how they did it. Is there some secret sauce, some magic formula, some unknown principles or techniques? All right, so here we go. He kind of rumbles a lot throughout this, but let's start here. What it takes to become a billionaire. You're likely asking yourself what it takes to get rich, but not just rich. Rich at the highest level. How do you go from broke to billionaire? Most people might simply want to have positive cash flow or even $1 million in the bank. But does $1 million really cut it these days? I'm going to tell you that no. From my experience, once you achieve that milestone, and for me, it wasn't sitting in a bank. Definitely not. It wasn't across several assets. So I have real estate, I had equity in a company, as well as retirement, money having the stock markets, crypto, all these things. Amass them together. Once you actually think about all these things, it's not that hard for you to get to 7 figures. Yes, it requires discipline and a mind state, but it's not sitting in the bank, and it's not the smartest thing to do for it to be sitting in the bank. Your assets should continuously be moving. You do need an emergency fund. You need some money to move around and do certain things, but a majority of it should not be sitting in the bank. That's my thought here. But let's continue. But billionaires are a different breed. It's a different world. Spending time with them is much more likened to fable fantasies rather than actual reality. All right, so now he's going into the 5 strategies. So I'm going to skip all this. If you're already an entrepreneur or business owner, then it's a matter of adapting. Not only do we adapt to survive, but we must also adapt to thrive. That is completely true. As a business owner, entrepreneur, you are sort of always in a competition, but at the same time, not really. Because if you have a passion driven for something, like for example, there's Netflix, there's Hulu, there's Disney Plus, even though Disney Plus and Hulu are part of the same Disney company, right? You have Peacock, all these different streaming platforms. Why do we sign up for one or the other, right? It shows you that you can have an idea and actually excel. It may be an existing idea, but switching it just slightly a little bit, adding a little spice, saison into it, give it a little nuance, makes it that much different and people would want to suck it in. And that's one thing that drives passion for these people that are behind all these like streaming networks and streaming platforms. Let's continue. Most people that think it's impossible to go from broke to billionaire, but it's been done repeatedly. Yes, he's naming a whole bunch of names, but I'm going to skip all that. So he listed some bullet points here. Actually, we're going to take into leverage an abundance mentality and laser focus your mindset. Yes, yes, yes. And that is why I always talk about gratitude and receiving abundance. Not the gratitude that comes from like thin air spirituality. I'm talking about the gratitude that God gives us. Yes, the God whose Son Jesus Christ died for me on the cross. I'm grateful for all the things that he has provided for me in this world, that I'm able to eat, I'm able to see every single day. Does not mean we sit down and do nothing, but I'm grateful for the ability for me to receive some of the blessings that he has bestowed upon the earth for us to be able to receive. Let's continue. Become an expert at business networking. I always network, even if it's an event that I think wasted my time. I went to a career fair. Mind you, I'm not even looking for anything, and I don't think the type of jobs that they had were something that I would adapt to. However, these companies or potential clients, and I went out there to speak to people and network. What came out of that? I got zero clientele, but it was a good opportunity. It creates practice, because sometimes you don't know what may evolve out of situation, and you never want to feel like you're too superior to attend an event and be able to network and build. Talk to people. I was not that type when I was so much younger, but once I realized and I learned when I started in my design career that in order for you to be elevated and actually receive to go to that next level, you have to speak up, you have to network, you have to talk to people. Same in the music business too. In order for me to actually been successful, get some placements, build relationships with artists and maneuver and grow it, I had to actually get out there and speak to people and network. So that's a quality that, yes, you definitely need to have. And I can attest to it that it has helped me tremendously. Let's keep going. Overcome the often stifling fear of failure. I cannot tell you how many times I failed personally at so many different things. I had a clothing brand that failed. I tried to do a Kickstarter at one point, and I felt it wasn't the right time, but I had this PR, and then she kind of got into my head, and it was a total phony, a total fake. But I failed. But guess what? I still have a clothing brand that I'm working on now with a partner of mine. I'm doing things different because I've learned from these mistakes and things that happened in the past. And on top of that, I have an expert in that field. He has 30 plus years. He's been doing this for a very long time. He does his own couture and also has a vision for so much things when it comes to clothing, styling, and fashion. So being that he has that expertise, us coming together, I'm very business oriented and I'm very design, creative driven. In that sense, we're fusing together and able to bring this brand out alive. And I'm working on that as we speak. It hasn't launched yet. So no matter how many times you failed, you can keep going, learn from it, and re-thrive and do better. Same across my music and design business. You just got to keep going and pushing through. Effectively manage your time. Yes, yes, yes. You have to effectively manage your time. It's key resources. When I was in my early 20s, I can tell you this. I used to always say, I'm going to sleep when I'm dead. It is not a good thing to say. It's not a good thing to do. You need actual proper sleep, and you have to manage your time properly in the sense of don't just put it all inside of the business. Just like working out, right? You work out for about 45 minutes, but then you got to rest for like 2 days and then come back on the third day. You got to give yourself time to rest. It's the same way when you're working on your business that you'll put time towards it. You got to set time aside for it to be relaxed. So spend time with your family, spend time with your loved ones, just step away from it all, go on vacation, do what you have to do. It's all part of effectively managing your time. It doesn't mean that you're working around the clock 24/7. You got to give time to those things because sometimes stepping out those places into those zones, different arena, different region, doing things with your family, it opens up your mind to something else that you weren't able to think of. Me, who's also in the design space, as well as in the music space, if I get a creative block in either one of those, I got to step away from my desk, from my computer, and then come back to it. And the solution just comes like that. It's crazy how our minds work. It's another muscle, and we have to learn to relax it. And part of that is effectively managing your time. Create long-term goals and take daily action towards them. Yes, you cannot build Rome in a day. I've known that statement for a very long time, and I've heard it continuously. You gotta slowly build the foundation, and then you get around your surroundings. Then you start laying up these buildings up on top. Matter of fact, they're doing a 40-unit construction on my block. Benefit for me is going to raise property values, but the suck part is going to raise taxes as well, which I don't like. However, you win some, you lose some. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and it's the same way too. Seeing how these guys worked, they started with the foundation. They spent about a year on it, but little progress by little progress. Now I'm seeing the frame come up. They're up to like the second floor, and they also got like the staircase part in the middle of the building that comes up. It's coming out very beautifully. So all that to say is just do it in small increments. Don't try to set all your goals to fit inside of one day. Instead, overestimate, I should say, right? But put smaller chunks of work that you have to allocate to in a day. So that way it's not like you're trying to fit 16 hours of work inside of one day. Instead, try to fit 4 hours worth of work in one day, since you have a full 8 hours to work. That way, if you are completing that super early, you're overachieving. However, if it takes you the whole 8 hours, then you still allocated some time to yourself. So that's one good thing to be able to be mindful of. Never give up, no matter how tough things might be. That is part of the reason why I do work out 3 times a week. It allows me to get that mindset. You want to quit at times. Like, me and my workout buddy, best friend, we started doing like 100. We used to do semi-distance push-ups. So we get halfway through, but it was speed push-ups. So we try to go as fast as we can on the fingertips. But now we're doing it all the way. And I can tell you, by the time we get to like 60, I'm already done for. Like, I feel like I don't want to do anymore. But when you push through those times, it trains your mind to know that limitations aren't limitations. You can overcome them. Your limits is actually higher than you might actually think. And then our minds typically work. And then it opens up your mind to receive a lot much more, to know that you can achieve a lot much more. It just makes you have that mindset. And that's why I work out. You could utilize the same discipline and practice inside of your business. These people, these wealthy people, they have done it too, and you can do it too. But for me, I use workout as a way for me to exercise that muscle, to allow me to have a bigger tolerance for my limitations, to always keep pushing it further and further. Focus the power of your thoughts on the positive over the negative. Again, another part of the gratitude, be grateful for what's in front of you, what you can control. The negative part aspects of things, be grateful for them too, because it helps you shift at times. I can't tell you how many jobs have turned me down, situations I've turned down from. But then a year later, I realized, wow, this was a beautiful thing, that it didn't happen because the opportunity that I did get at the time, it didn't seem like it was the best, but it became the better one option after I realized it a year later. And that's why you got to focus on the positive and not the negative. The negative is when you trust in God. I'm telling you this right now. The negative is a way that He's protecting you from where you're actually supposed to go. He's deviating you to. And that's why we pray. That's why we definitely lean upon Him. We call upon God. We call upon Jesus. That guidance, because we do need it. We do need it. And sometimes we can't see it. And when we ask for that intervention into our lives, into our business, and everything that we're doing from God, He does do that. He creates negative situations. And sometimes it's a storm that comes through your life, right? But it's meant to shift you a particular way. That happened to me. I could say 2016, I definitely devoted my life a lot much more to Christ. In 2017, a storm happened and abundance was happening at the same time. Like, I was accumulating all this wealth. At the same time, there's a lot of things that were separating from my life. And I'm super grateful for how it all happened. It's beautiful. Never look for shortcuts or try to cut corners. Yes, cutting corners is not good, right? It's kind of like when we're doing push-ups, I'll go on my knees and try to do the 100. Or don't go up all the way. You're only cheating yourself. What happens is you're not actually intensifying the muscle. So if you were to go to a competition and then practice, you're not actually doing like the full 100 of push-ups, and you go to competition, you would fail. You would suck at it because of the fact that you were properly training. And that's why they tell you keep your form when you're working out at the gym. Make sure you keep the form. Don't cheat. Don't try to swivel the machine a certain way or the weights a certain way. You got to maintain the form so you're not cheating, because that's how you actually build a muscle. You get the effective results and you're properly working out. Same way we apply this in our business. Do things how you're supposed to do things. Don't cut corners. At the same time, I can tell you this, when it comes to like tax laws and things like that, make sure you look into those things, because sometimes it may feel like you're cheating, but you're really not. You're following the laws completely. Use case I have for this is Trump paying $700 in taxes after making billions in revenue over a particular year. He didn't do it illegally. He did it completely by the book. It seems like he was cheating. It seems like it was unfair, but really in reality, it wasn't. We cannot be too mad at him. We just gotta be like, oh, this guy figured it out. He was very intelligent. He didn't really cut corners. He was just very intelligent about it to do it. So be mindful of that too. Work smart, not hard. So sometimes you cut corners if it's the smartest thing to do, but it's not really cutting corners. If it's still effective and it's still the right way in your heart to do things, and you're not really cutting corners, but it seems the more effective way, go for it. Definitely. Understand the underlying principles of sales and marketing. I got into sales and marketing when I started doing websites, understanding how analytics works. I've ran a lot of Facebook ads to promote my music mostly, and also the clothing brand when I was initially doing some user experience research to gather some people from online that didn't know me. I utilized those platforms, and this is where sales and marketing really kicks in. But I'm not an expert at it. I'm going to have to rely on people to be able to do that. But it is a very strong part of making your business successful, for it to be known, for people to be familiar with it. Don't let that just go like out of the dust and just completely forget about it. Because if a tree falls down in forest and there's nobody to hear it, right? Did it really fall? I know that's a tricky question. But my point I'm making is that if nobody knows about your business and your brand, then do you really have a brand? You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, you got to actually put it out there and get the word out there as much as possible, whatever way you can. Sometimes it doesn't require money. You just got to go start out there and spreading the word, and you will see that success over time. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes hard work and dedication. Become a fervent brand builder. Do not forget about your brand at all. Just know that your brand is kind of like your brother or your sister or this baby that you're creating. You gave birth to this new baby, right? You want to grow it, take care of it, make sure you breastfeed it and all this stuff. That's what your brand is. Don't neglect it. Actually spend time and try to think about, how do you make this brand unique? How do you make it stand out? I can tell you clearly, Hulu, Netflix, Peacock, they all have their different feeling. When I go on Hulu, it gives me a different feeling. Netflix, a different feeling. It's the same way with music artists. When I'm listening to particular artists, they have a way about them, right? I was listening to Ludacris spit a rhyme on Facebook Live not too long ago, and I'm like, dang, that's what I liked about Luda. Nobody flows like that. He's so different and distinct. So these are part of having your brand and be able to establish that. Always think about ways for you to make sure that baby that you're growing, make sure it grows into this unique being. That's how you got to really do it. Now let's get into it. Number one, he says, create something that adds an abundant amount of value to the world. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I do agree with that. When you think about a product or service that you're creating, think about how it can actually help people, right? Like, how can it save me time from doing certain things? I can tell you one example. I'm trying to figure out a way how to effectively enter my bookkeeping for my taxes, right? One thing I did do, I created my own kind of software for me to be able to do that completely offline. I'm not using any cloud, any third-party service. So I created my own online thing. I'm the only one that has access to it. Nobody else does. And I've been able to manage my receipts that way. And every year I make it better. I add a little bit new feature to make it better until it gets to the point where I feel like I have something I can share with the world and they are able to utilize. But it's providing value to me right now. And those are how a lot of businesses start. And you got to think about this across the board for everything that came to be. Netflix started with DVDs. We needed a way for us to get movies We can drop it in the mail. It gets delivered to us for a monthly fee, and we could just keep that cycle going over and over. As long as we were paying a recurring fee, right, we could hold on to the DVD as long as we want. That's how they started their business model, and they got into streaming. We needed to watch entertainment. They're providing value to me because none of us can really live without some form of entertainment. Even though there are people that don't watch TV, they still have to embed themselves in books, to learning. Those are a form of entertainment for them. And those are the things that provide value to people. And you got to think about, how can I serve those people and bring the value to them? So whatever product and ideas that you have, if it's either a problem that you're trying to solve for yourself or for your friend, if it does any of these things, then it provides value. So think about that. Number 2, create a consumable product that people love. So consumable just means that I can give this to my friend, my fellows, and such and such. But it doesn't always mean just normal consumers. It could be a business, actually. It could be a business that needs your product, that have people working in there. And you have no choice but to utilize it if it's providing an effective way for you to actually operate and run your business. You're going to be open to that actual product. So if you can do that for a business or a person, then you have a very good product right there. And think about how can it be utilized as well. Make your stuff, make sure it's very usable. And that's why you do need to hire a user experience expert, aka that's part of what I do as well, to make sure that your product is understood by people. It's able to be received in a way that's enjoyable, that it's not creating more problems and headaches for them. Like, you have to learn to understand what their problems are and how can you provide efficiency and effectiveness into their lives. So that's a good one right there. Insert yourself as a service provider into a high growth industry. Yes, that is one good thing. I do agree with that. Using the case of Hulu and Netflix, the streaming network has been evolving. Netflix killed it. They were killing it so much that Disney stepped in. They provided their own streaming platform. And now they have, I think, 100 million subscribers. It's insane. They're taking a piece of that market share. They could have been like, oh, Netflix already got this. We don't need to step into it. But no, they did. They did it anyway. Same with the iPhone. When the iPhone came out, the touch phone was such a phenomenal thing. Like, Steve Jobs blew everybody out the water. But I think not too long afterwards, Samsung, which were making a lot of their parts, came out with their phones. They collaborated with Google. Google provided the software, that the Android iOS software that's being utilized on the iPhone. So it created a combination of two companies for that to actually come together. But if you think about it, if they were like, oh, iPhone is killing it, they're good, they got that market, I'm not going to tap into it. They didn't do that. They actually were like, this is a huge opportunity. We think we could provide something different. Even though the market is being capitalized by Apple, we may provide something different for people to utilize. And I would say about half of my friends and people I know around utilize Androids. As much as I myself, I'm not an Android user. I don't like it. I'm iPhone based. I'm mostly Mac, iOS, because I'm in the creative space. They still utilize these things, and we got to communicate some way, somehow. The experience that Android provides, they seem in more favor for it, that they're more adaptable. Because remember, not everybody is born the same way. Not all of us live the same life. We don't like the same things. Because of that, it always creates another opportunity for another company to step in and create something that's different, that's adaptable to those people. It's really creating that love connection between your consumers and the product that you have in whatever way, no matter what. Even if the market has already been dominated by one particular brand, you can still step into it and slowly grow there, right? Case of Instagram, Facebook. Facebook was killing it. But Instagram said, oh, we're going to come out with a way for you people to just post and do short video clips. I don't even think when they first started, they were doing video clips. It was just basic photos. And Facebook already had all these features. And what happened? They slowly got there to the point where Facebook was like, you guys are a threat. You guys are taking some of the social media market share. We're going to actually buy you out. And they did that. So it's the same case for Snapchat. I'm pronouncing it right now. they also saw an opportunity for them to capitalize on the social media market and TikTok. TikTok is the last one, I believe, out of all of these, and they've been blowing people out of the water for their short videos. It's very addictive. The first time I got on that platform, I was like, damn, this is just hooking me and hooking me. It's that whole hook model when it comes to like building out user experience. It's an addictive behavior. It creates this adrenaline in people's mind, and it provides them, like, it sucks them in to really be hooked on. So that's another thing that you got to think about for your product. Don't be afraid. If you have something you think that's great, it may have been dominated by another company, another big giant. You still have an opportunity. As long as you can provide something to people that's different, they fall in love with more than they'll fall in love with that other product. All right. Number 4, find a way to improve communications or connection online. That I don't think works for everything. And he's mentioning Mark Zuckerberg here in the top of this article for Facebook. And I just mentioned Facebook. Yes, providing a way for people to communicate is great, but this doesn't really apply for Amazon. Well, I guess the connection online thing provides a way from Amazon, because I can now order things instantaneously. I can use it from my phone, my computer, and order a variety of products, and it gets shipped to me. So that's being done all online. But communication-wise, you're not really utilizing Amazon as a way to communicate to anybody. It's just an online service. So for that sake, I would say, yeah, 4 still applies. That depends on the company and seeing how it applies. Now let's jump to the last thing. Invest in real estate and grow your portfolio over time. Let me tell you something about real estate. It is the only one of assets that you can purchase that has these 3 multi-components to it. 1, it appreciates over time, right? Number 2, if you're renting it, it provides a source of cash flow. It's a cash flowing thing that keeps happening. And number 3, just for owning a rental property, you get a tax deduction. It's one of those ways that you can save so much in taxes. Well, let me not say so much, because it depends on your house values and how much depreciation value that you can get per year. But those things, or 3 components that it has that a lot of other assets don't have. I can't do that with stocks. Stocks appreciate over time, yes, but it doesn't really provide me cash flow unless it's a stock that pays out dividends. And it doesn't do as well, I feel, as real estate. The return on real estate is much bigger than dividends. I think the highest dividend payout is probably like 10%. I mean, if the stock blows out the water, then you're looking like a very nice, hefty payday. However, real estate over time is always great at performing. If you own a variety of these things, it's a great way for you to park some money. If you receive an abundance from a business that you are growing and you want to park some money somewhere, it's a great way for that money to grow and elevate so quick, because it has those 3 components into it. You make so much money, you save so much taxes, as well as you have that place that you own. The assets grows. It doesn't grow as fast, like 10-15%, unless you went through what we went through in 2020, where, like, for me, my home value went from under 600, which is around where I purchased it, to now being almost 900,000, right? So that's almost $300,000 in equity. Minus my mortgage balance, I'm looking at around 350. This is me disregarding like the real estate fees, taxes. That's the thing too, right? If I was to sell right now, because I've held it for over 2 years, I get a $250,000 tax credit, plus all the other like costs that I did for renovations and all these things. I'll pretty much come out of that deal paying 0 taxes. And real estate is a beautiful thing because you had that component, and I had the cash flow along the years. So definitely look into real estate. There are people that are against it. I know people I've seen on YouTube that share their stories that they're not into that. They'd rather rent because they don't want to deal with the hassle. Don't be afraid of it. If it's your first time buying a home, I know it's a scary thing. You're taking a big leap and you're not sure what's going on. But it really, you have to focus on what is it that you want in 5 years or 10 years. Like, do you want to stay stuck in where you're at, or are you trying to be elevated? One of the motivating factors for me that really urged me to push for real estate, even though I was looking prior to that, but I was renting out and then they weren't giving me heat during the cold months. Like, I was like, what the heck? I got to call in every other day to complain about the heat. That is so annoying. So I would rather have control of my own. So that was one of the motivating factors for me. But if you are getting to it, it's really a connection that's going to happen at the right time. And this is where you lean onto God. And if you have been thinking about it for some time, what you really got put in your head is this the right time for me to get into it? Do I have enough reserves in the bank to be able to actually go through it? Because it's one of those investments in the beginning, it will consume some of your time and a bit of your money, depending on how bad of a shape the house is. I would not recommend for your first home for you to get a rehab home or something that you got flipped. You could do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. You stay away from like FHA 203K. It's a big headache, things like that. But not that it's impossible. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, of course. But be smart. Be very intelligent. Do your calculations properly. Speak to a financial advisor. Speak to the lender. Do the math. Do the budgeting to see if it's the right time for you to step into it. Don't feel discouraged with the markets, all the shenanigans going around. There's still deals that make sense. With interest rate go high, if house prices go down, your payments will pretty much be the same. Right? That's what you got to think about. So you got to figure out, what house can I buy? Where can I buy? Where it still makes sense. I can get to it. I can rent it out and actually come out to be about the same financially, right? Despite the interest rates coming up high. Those are the things that you got to be on the lookout for. But real estate is definitely one of those things. You got to think about it for the long term. It's not an investment where you can come in today like stocks and come out tomorrow. You're married to that thing for 30 years if you are doing a 30-year mortgage, or 15 years. You can always sell early, but I don't always recommend it. I haven't sold and I don't know what it's like doing a transaction like that. However, for me, when I did my own calculations, I see that I'll be losing if I do, because I got to give some of the depreciation values back to the IRS, as well as they only give me $250,000 in tax credit. It's a whole lot of things. Rather than keep all that, the tax losses that you harvested in the house, inside of the house, or do a 1031 exchange too. That's another way. If you're selling, you could do the 1031 exchange. Then they just pretty much transfer all the depreciation and all these things that you have done across the board. For me, it just seems so much headache, so much paperwork, that I'd rather take the cash out the house, buy more property, and just continue building on there. And that's the other beautiful thing about the real estate. You can keep the home, take out the equity, loan from it, and buy some more properties. It's such a beautiful thing. I'm still in property one right now. I'm looking forward to the year coming, God willing, seeking upon guidance of God, as well as me doing my due diligence, trying. Because remember, we could have all this faith, but if we're not actually trying to do things, God ain't going to try to maneuver our path. He's going to block things here, block things there, and then show you the clear path. The things that's meant for you, it is going to be for you. You're just going to pretty much slide up in there. Slide up in there. All right. So that's the last thing that I actually agree with him on this article. Overall, I mean, I think he did some pretty great 5 points. Like the first one, and just for us to recap, is that create something that adds abundant amount of value to the world. It has to help somebody in some way, shape, or form, that to make their life much more efficient, for them to work quicker and just be more efficient within their lives. Create a consumable product that people love. Ensure that people understand your product. They can actually utilize. They will utilize it. That's not just going to be sitting there. That it actually, not only does it provide the value, but it's actually something that they need. Like, think about the necessity, not the want. If people just want your product and it's not a necessity, then I don't know. You might have to question and research that some more. Insert yourself as a service provider to a high growth industry. Just because there's competition out there inside of a particular industry does not mean you can't step into it, right? Like I said, the example of the streaming network. One thing I'm getting into is the whole tax credit business. I'm working with a colleague of mine on that sense because I have a very strong passion towards it. I want to be able to help people, especially minorities who lack the intelligence, the education, the resources to be able to build wealth. And I've seen that lacks a lot, especially for me, grown up by Caribbean parents. They're very fearful. Like, they're very fearful of the stock market. They rather keep their cash in the bank, and educating them on certain things like that could provide a different opportunities. How to utilize credit. One of my aunts, she doesn't have a credit card. She's fearful of it because she thought that credit cards are evil. They're the evil thing of this world. But because of credit, I've been able to do a lot of things inside of my home, as well as operate my finances in such tremendous way to grow the wealth, so I can focus on the wealth part, utilize credit to do the things that I need to do, and use the cash to invest it in self. That's pretty much my tactic. So that's one thing that I'm working on behind the scenes. Number 4, he said, find a way to improve communications or connection online. You got to think about your Amazon, your Facebook. They're bringing people together, or you're able to go online and actually order a product, right? It works for certain things. It doesn't work for everything. But if you have one of those things, I think it's great to have that. I don't think 4 is required. It depends on the product or the service that you're providing. 5, invest in real estate portfolio. You actually do not need real estate to become successful and wealthy in your product or your business, or to be a billionaire. However, it's one way to actually help your wealth stabilize, continue to grow, be protected, and have your assets in a very, it's a very tax-saving asset. That's the reason why these big billionaires have real estate, because it provides that leverage for them. So I do think it's very important. If you're able to, if you don't have a home and you're thinking about it, or you want to dig further into it, just make sure you stay tuned. I provided some other videos where I'm actually talking about that, really targeted towards the people that are buying their first property, because that's where my experience lies in that. I have my experience doing that. I haven't gotten to my second, third, or the commercial. I've tried them, not successfully yet, right? And I can say I failed, but I haven't really, because I haven't given up. The opportunities are still out there. I'm looking forward to the years coming by for me to be able to actually do the transactions, right? So these are the 5 things that this article stated that you can utilize today to become one of those 2,000 plus billionaires that exist in this world. Think big, think large, create something that people will love, value, that is a necessity, not just a want, but an actual necessity, and bring that to folks. So think creative idea. I'd love for you to share whatever you think. Of course, your intellectual property, you want to make sure you have that trademark copyright, which I did another video in regards to that. But it's good for us to spark ideas amongst each other in terms of strategies, like financial wise. So I'm always open to hearing about it. Drop one in the comments below if you have any to share in that aspect. Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear all about it. Have a great and amazing one.